You're watching Backstreet Gossip, news talk, current events, and political commentary with your host, Ron Ludders. Now, let's return to the show.
Well, gee, Josh, you forgot to applaud. Everybody was applauding, but you and David, what's with you guys?
We were clapping under the table.
Clapping under the table, stomping your feet, right?
Yes.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and here we are in our second half of the show. And for those of you on the East Coast, this is going to be a dynamite show because I know you're interested in the Arizona audit, and as Ray and I call it, America's audit.
Yes.
And so we have with us, Josh Barnett. You might remember him, troublemaker supreme, and he's always in trouble, but he's got biceps that kind of support his tongue.
That's right. So
nobody argues with him when he gets going. And we got our good friend David Jose. Now, I'm not sure whether it's Jose David or David Jose, because they're both first names.
David Jose.
David Jose. And I'll tell you, between these two guys, this is a dynamite team, and you're going to learn one heck of a lot. Now, we've got this audit going on here in Arizona, and we have everybody's playing games. I mean, we have the Secretary of State and Katie Hobbs. And
Katie Hobbs.
What is it? What's about Katie Hobbs?
She has a quote that she said for...
Oh, yeah, Katie Hobbs. That's the one that says, Trump supporters are all neo-Nazis. You've heard that, haven't you?
David, you look like a neo-Nazi.
That's the one that made me angry. I said, look, if she's going to say that, then it's open season. I need to jump in this.
Good for you,
Does
David.
that really represent her position as Secretary of State? I mean, to call more than 50% of the people neo-Nazis. I mean, is she really representing
she
everyone?
Did it. Of course, I've never seen Katie Hobbs. I've known her before she was Secretary of State when she was a state representative, and I never really felt the IQ was pushing 100. But that's just me, I guess.
Well, her haircut's always been illegal.
So at any rate, we have that situation. Then we have a board of supervisors. And last time we had Josh on, we had a real Donnybrook here in which we went after Supervisor Chukri.
That's right.
And
he ended up doing the right thing.
And he ended up doing the right thing for a time.
I know nothing about that.
and now we've got another scenario here. We've got an audit that's moving along. It's on a rocky, bumpy road, but it's moving along. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of things here that need a lot of splaining.
Well, let's talk about today, though.
So
talk about
that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed. And there were a lot of things that were not asked for. Well, they were asked for, but not delivered to the audit team. And as many of you know, I have been an auditor for most of my life, and they're saying that the Board of Supervisors are saying, this is the Maricopa Board of Supervisors, saying that the audit team doesn't need anything else. They've got all that they need. Now, that's never true. In a true audit, you have what's called data requests, and when you need more information to support your position, you ask for it. In this case, because it's a governmental agency asking another governmental agency, it is asked for in a subpoena. So the subpoena serves as a data request. Now, Ray, what's happened today?
Well, as far as I understand, they met with some attorneys and they've just declined to provide any additional information, say that it's not needed. We're not going to give you anything more.
And I don't know who these people are that say it's not needed. The ones that are driving the train are the auditors. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys, but you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And, Ray, we found out something the other day, and I think Josh can verify that. It seems like the chairman of the Board of Supervisors has, not while he was chairman, but had paid a visit to the Chinese.
At their expense.
At the Chinese had paid for him to visit. Shortly thereafter, they involved themselves in a contract with Dominion, which is supposedly partially owned by the CCP.
Yeah,
that's for the Chinese Communist Party, if you don't know what CCP
it was back
means.
In October.
Well, they've proven that connection.
So, Josh, to the best of your ability, because I know you love the Constitution, not only the United States, but the Arizona Constitution, who is the final say on who controls the elections here and in every state in the
people.
union.
The people are.
The people, right? And the Constitution states, the U.S. Constitution states, that it will be the legislature of each state. They are in control. So is the Board of Supervisors above the legislature, or are they subservient to them?
Well, we grant the Senate authority to handle our business. The Senate created the Board of Supervisors and have plenary authority over everything that has to do with the election. The BOS is like your child telling you, the kid talking back and telling you, Dad, I'm not doing that, I don't want to. And you're like, no, you're going to clean your room. Dad, I'm not going to do that. Well, now you're going to get grounded.
Right.
You don't let your kid tell you what to do as a parent.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happening right now is the BOS is telling the parents what to do. And there is enforcement to this. The enforcement mechanism is different than another subpoena that they're not going to follow, which I already knew that they weren't going to follow. They didn't follow the first one.
No.
So why would they follow
Even
the second one?
even though they said they would follow it,
Well, they're
did
liars.
not.
That's all they do. They lie constantly, and that's what these people do. And they're hiding something, obviously, because there's no other reason not to. But all you got to do is issue a subpoena. And we've plainly spoken this as far as what to do, and I'll let David take it as far as the issuance of a warrant and how it's different than a subpoena.
Well, yeah. First of all, it's sad because Josh and I have talked to attorneys about this, and we've talked to some of the people in the legislature. And there was some information that was put out recently that I think it got into one of the news outlets about how what we said was not correct about warrants. But we were told by multiple people that a subpoena is a warrant is a subpoena. And it's the craziest thing I've ever heard, because when you want to go pick up something from a criminal, you don't say, officer, go out with a subpoena and take everything he has.
Ask him nicely.
Yeah, subpoena is a request for you to bring something with you. A warrant is, hey, officer, go snatch him and the stuff up. Totally different. So when you want something by force, you issue something to get an officer to go get it. So it's crazy to me that in Arizona they can issue pickup orders for kids. They could issue orders to go take money out your bank for child support, but they can't take something from the Board of Supervisors that's in the Constitution as created by the people, with the legislature having authority over them.
That we already own. The people own that equipment.
So here's my question, because Ron and I talked about this before too.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a court order, or you have a legislative order.
So let me give you the difference, because this will mess people up. So when one of the people in the private have a problem, right, we give authority to the state to have officers. So we have the authority that if Ron hits someone in the room right now, I can grab Ron and subdue him for a crime, just as one of the people. So when the legislature or any government official gets the ability to make an arrest, it's only because the people had it first and we delegated it to them, right? So every grant of authority they have is delegated. If they got something that we didn't give to them, they stole it.
Right.
So now let's take it to the next level. So when it comes to a warrant, what happens is, in a situation where it's judicial, it requires harm, a cause of action, or somebody messing up on a contract. So if someone harms someone, I get authority over the person who harmed me. Therefore, I can subdue them in some way. The courts in a judicial situation says I can go to the court and give them a warrant, an affidavit or a claim that he has done me wrong. The claim is prima facie evidence that he has done wrong to me because I go to jail if I lie. Mm-hmm. That allows me to get the court to have jurisdiction over him and take him in. That's how the officer grabs him. In a legislative situation, it's not judicial. It's a different situation. So when they wanted to impeach Trump, notice they didn't use judicial evidence. They used political theory, right? They came up with a lot of stuff and had a hearing, and the courts could not stop them because they're a separate branch of government. Their business is political. The court's business is judicial.
The courts cannot interfere with the Senate investigation.
At all.
At all, period.
So here's how you get them. If you look in the Mace's Manual of Legislative Procedure, when it talks about subpoenas and warrants, it tells you that a contumacious person who denies or decides to not follow a subpoena You can either come together as the legislature and say that he is guilty of contempt and vote, or not the same thing, or one of the committees that heard the situation,
The Judiciary Committee.
can write a report and then send the officers to go take what you want because he didn't listen, and no affidavit is necessary. Why? Because an affidavit is necessary when there's been harm. But since there's been no harm and the legislature saw that they're not listening, the legislature can write a report with no need of an affidavit to go pick up whatever they want.
So in the past, they talked about that they had to have a vote of the entire Senate. And what you're saying
For a
is
subpoena.
For a subpoena.
They're using different words to bring trickery.
The statute
Yeah.
is 41, 1151 through 1155. It's all about subpoenas.
Only subpoenas.
It's not
It's
warrants.
not mentioning warrants. So what they do is they try to trick us. Now remember, the Bar Association has openly told everybody, if you fight to get an audit for the people, we will take your license.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was the Bar Association that all of these attorneys are part of. So when you see something like an attorney give partial remedy, and you say, like, why in the world? I'll give you a perfect example. The legislature did a subpoena before when they were out of session, right? And they said, oh, we don't have the power. I can tell you who said it. I'm not going to mention her name. One of the senators said, we can't enforce this because we're out of session. And I said, that's 100% wrong. If you have the authority to write a subpoena, it's automatically enforceable. That's bound in the law when it comes to being necessary and proper. If I give you the authority to take care of my business, I give you all the authority necessary to take care of my business. Not just
right.
some.
Not when you're just at work. You
No.
have my authority
No.
at any time.
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
the state constitutions across the country tells you, in most of them, that when the government officials are amenable to the people or accountable at all times.
Not in session, out of session.
Yeah, that's
So
what
it's
you
a,
will.
Wow,
so it's
so
a
this is-
complete it's a complete process, not a step-by-step process, which is what we've been undergoing here. Step
Well, because
by
they're
step,
lying.
drip by drip.
The attorneys are lying. The attorneys, you got to remember, there was a promise made to any attorney who helped get an audit. Now, think about this. This audit ain't about Trump. It ain't about anybody else. It's about the people. So when the people said, legislature in every state, give us an audit. Senators, give us an audit. Government officials and attorneys, give us an audit. It was not the attorneys doing it, it's the people.
Right.
So the Bar Association, which is a private entity that's foreign to government, came out and said, do it, and we're going to take your license. And then they took Giuliani's. They're going after Sidney Powell. They're going after all these other people. So what's happening is the Bar Association is controlling everything by forcing everybody to the court, and they're officers of the court. Why the freak do we have officers of the court working with people inside the legislature when we have separation of powers?
Right.
You're an officer of the court, which means you want most cases to go to the court.
Okay, so play it through how it is written currently. What can they do from
Easy.
this point out?
Easy. They can go right now today. Any one of the any committee that has dealt with this issue that they did not give the information for, the head of the committee can literally write a report, give it to Karen Fan. Karen Fan can sign off of it. They can send
With
the
no vote, nothing to do with the courts. They can go.
Yeah.
They send a sergeant at
arms
arms
to
to
go
go pick up what
snatch
they
it
need.
up, or the sheriff.
So
The
the
sheriff
stuff, the
is
stuff not turned over by the subpoena, have it in a warrant, and they go get it. It's that simple.
Okay, now, you've kind of teased me with this now.
This is not an arrest warrant because I've heard that too.
No,
That's-
but
there's
at
a
this
different type.
at this point, and I know you're really connected well. Have you spoken to leadership about this?
They're very aware of it.
Then why aren't they doing something?
Lawyers are telling
because
them
the
not to.
attorneys are in the midst of the. So you got to remember, the Constitution says the people run the whole government. This is our government. It's
is.
only a corporation. That people get it mixed up because they hear terms like the government is sovereign, and they think that means the government runs everybody. That's not what the law says. In Arizona, in our Constitution, sovereign authority is defined in one of the in one of the provisions. And I can show you where people get their information twisted up, where they believe sovereign means something that it does not mean. And I can prove to you right now how the government officials, for instance, I'll give you an example. Right now, they're saying in the legislature that they would cancel or get rid of the emergency if, and they're in line with Ducey, and they would get rid of the emergency if something happened. So to me, if there's a tornado outside and I say, oh my gosh, there's an emergency, there's nothing we can do to stop it. We would have to hide. Now, if there's a way that I can stop the emergency, but I won't stop it for any reason, then I'm working against the people because the emergency scares the people. So if there's an emergency that says we all got to be locked down, we got to wear masks, we can't end this state of emergency unless we get a certain thing, then we need to know what that thing is. That thing is $452 million from Biden. So it's been said openly. Senator Kelly Townsend said it. If Biden will give us the $452 million or $51 million refund of the money, then we'll go ahead and let the emergency die. So if you could stop it for 452 or 51 million, you could stop it for nothing.
Right.
It's not an emergency if you can get rid of it for money.
Right.
Okay, so let's name names. Does the
Kelly
name...
Townsend is the one who put that out there.
Well, I'm talking about lawyers. I'm really concerned about this. The name Corey comes up to
Well,
mind.
he's the lead Senate attorney right now.
So let me just clarify something really quick. So, do you need an attorney? Do you need to go through the court system?
Let's make
So
it,
they really don't even need their
they
advice.
think they need it, but here's the problem.
Okay.
The government officials in every state make a contract and swear an oath to the people. The law says that the highest bond between men, this is a maxim of law. The highest bond between men is that of an oath. If I swear to you that I'm going to do something, that is really important. In the military, you can get in a lot of trouble for swearing, having to go to war, and not shooting at the people you're supposed to shoot at. Some bad stuff can happen to you.
Well, I mean, the founding fathers said we're willing to give up our life, our fortune, and our sacred honor. And that's what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Your word is your bond.
But-
And let your yes be yes and your no mean no.
But we know state politicians lie all the time, and we don't hold them accountable. That's what the problem is. We don't. In our schools, we have not been taught the state constitution. I can show you, this is something that no legislature ever talked about before me and Josh brought it up. Article 7, Section 7 in the Arizona Constitution forces an audit. The government officials swear that the person with the most legal votes will be considered the person elected.
Right.
So in order to tell that somebody has the most legal votes, you have to get rid of the illegal votes. There's a deduction process that has to happen after the election.
And the only way to do that is to have a forensic audit.
Is to check. So when they say, I did a risk limiting 2% or 3%, I'm like, who the heck told you to do that?
Right.
Y'all wrote it for yourself? Yeah, well, we're the
Well,
bosses.
statute says.
Yeah, we're the bosses. We're home and we're telling you we want all of them checked. Now do it. Right? Now, this is exactly what happened in Arizona. Josh told them through writing, hey, it's maladministration if you don't check these ballots. Chukri, who decided that he wanted to audit against his attorney's advice, did it for a reason. Because Josh gave him notice. He's the only one. He's the only one who got the notice from Josh. And people got served at their house in the legislature, and they realized, we probably should do this. Yeah, you probably should. But the thing is that the people don't usually know what the law says. So when I tell you what Article 7, Section 7 says, it automatically knocks down a ton of what they say. I'll give you another example. In Arizona Declaration of Rights, Article 2, Section 21, it tells that no entity, civil or military, shall interfere with free and equal elections or free and fair. So what that means is if I force you to use markers and I let other people use ink pens, you're not letting us be free and fair.
Oh, and use a different kind of paper on the election day.
You're interfering.
It's maladministration. We don't need to prove fraud.
Yeah, and this is the problem. People trying to prove fraud. Have you noticed that Arizona doesn't say anything about fraud?
Well, fraud is very difficult to prove because
Yes.
you must show intent.
Yes.
But the level of proving that it's a high bar.
You got to swear. You got to swear something is true. Like there's a lot of guys who'll say, "Look, the numbers show us that this was wrong." Well, the numbers show me that Arizona shouldn't be hot this year. The numbers in here show me that it's a little bit too warm. That's an opinion. If you can't tell me exactly who did something wrong to harm you, you don't have a cause of action. A cause of action is a reason to go to court. That's why me and Josh don't go to court.
All right, so let's go back to previous elections, right? Nobody's been watching the farmhouse, right? I mean, everybody's just been sitting back and saying, yeah, okay, well, that's what, it doesn't seem fair, but you know what? This is the way that it is. And now finally, people like you, people like Josh are coming to the table and saying, wait a second, this was set up at the time that we became a state because they knew that something could happen like this. Why aren't we checking this all the time? Why aren't we auditing every single one of the elections? Why have we got to this point? And look at all the people that have got into office, made decisions not at the favor of our state, and now we're sitting here in the middle of the muck saying, no, this has got to stop now.
Yes, it's a sad thing because
It's easily fixable. That's the thing.
yeah, it's very easy to fix, and the problem is
But the layout is already there.
yeah, well that's what we're saying.
Well,
It's
let's-
easy to fix in plain English.
Let's get to the point.
In the
How
law.
do we fix this? I'm really concerned about some of these attorneys.
Our Virginia Constitution, Bill of Rights, Section 3 clearly tells exactly
What to do. And this is how simple it is. So I ask you a question. When they changed election law and changed the rules and procedure without the help of the legislature in all these states, was that good administration or maladministration?
No.
Now,
Yeah,
Okay,
illegal.
so people are running around trying to prove fraud like we have to do that when the law says we can remove or alter or abolish, change at will any government that acts even in the danger of maladministration. You don't even have to do maladministration. All you got to do is leave stuff loose and sloppy, and we have the right to correct the whole government, remove people, say, look, we're done.
And when you say we, you mean we the people.
We the people.
people.
The government doesn't control it. See, we have this backward programming that says when something happens wrong to the people that we need to go ask government to help us. If you look in Georgia Constitution, it says the people have the right to regulate their internal government. You look at Missouri Constitution. Now, think about this. None of us in here are slaves, right? If we're not slaves, we all have equal rights, right? So in the declarations and bills of rights of every state, people declared the rights that they thought of at the time, and the government officials signed an open-ended contract in pretty much every one of them that said, hey, we got more rights that we didn't tell you about, but if we tell you we got them, we got those too.
Right.
So the people have a right in any Republican form of government to remove their government at will, change it, alter, abolish, erase anything for maladministration, or if you're just inadequate. If we don't like you, we can remove you.
At the public will.
okay, now here comes the
will,
rea-
not
here comes
anybody else's.
Here comes the reality of this. Okay, if we demanded this, will it happen? No.
Yes, it
Well-
will.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, it will definitely happen.
You had already spoken. We talk about Corey Lang.
Let's look at this simply.
And I don't, he's saying, well, that this isn't going to happen. So let's suppose
I'll bet you they issue a warrant this week.
Hey, look.
Let's say we go down there. Just a minute. Let's just say we go down there and say, you guys are all out of here.
You got Corey's phone number. Let's call him right now.
What do you think's going to happen? I probably do have.
Look,
Corey's.
it's very simple. See, we don't go down there and ask a dang thing. What we do is, you got a show with a ton of people watching. There's people like Mike Lindell, Flynn, all these people with a ton of people
Steve
watching,
Bannon.
begging for somebody to just give a single answer, and nobody's telling them what they can do exactly. They're begging. You got righteous people who are conservative in America who are being attacked for being conservative or white. Right now, there's an attack on all
Right.
of you guys in this room. So if I'm here as a brown-skinned guy, and I see that you guys are getting punished every single day just for caring about God and freedom and having good business and a little bit of stuff in your life, if I don't say something, something is wrong. But we got highly powerful and wealthy people who have millions, 100 million, 200 million people who watch them from in America and out of America that's just begging, what action step can we take to fix this? The law in Virginia Constitution clearly says if any government is found inadequate, that the people, nation, or community have the power to reform, alter, and abolish it at will, and that is indubitable, indefeasible, and they have an inalienable right to do it. You can't even second guess the right or challenge it. Now,
And what's the highest law of the land?
the Constitutions.
So no statute out there trumps what is being said.
You can't even tell me that the people that are serving in Washington or the state understand the Constitution.
They don't have a Bill of Rights
Yes,
there
but
either.
that's why it has happened this way. Psychologically, you've been deprived of what your fundamental law says. So you don't know your rights. Why did they do that? They took your rights away a little bit at a time in secret because they know if you found out, the people of America would do what y'all did when y'all beat the King of England. That's why you can't be white, you can't be masculine, you can't be Christian. Why? Because Christian, masculine, white man defeated the king. There is no force in this world that will stop Americans who are conservative, who love God and freedom, from fighting if they know the law. The reason they are passive right now, and the left knows it, they will come on live TV, spit in your face, call you neo-Nazis, dog you and embarrass you, and not care because they are unlawful. You guys will not fight back because you are lawful, because you will not take steps as conservatives if you don't know you're lawful.
But the second we know,
the second you
it's gonna
find
be very
out
bad for
is
them.
game over. Everything changes. Why? Because y'all are the majority and they're just hiding it from you. They think, oh, if we get enough mainstream news media guys to say that they lost and they're crazy, and we get enough Democrats to say they're crazy, they're just going to go away like every time. And I'm like, I'll be your Huckleberry. We ain't leaving. I bet you that, look, they brought 73 Perkins attorneys to stop the audit. Josh and I were here giving them the stuff to do the audit, showing them how to do it. And then Perkins Coy's attorney came. You could see we did a video, and we literally taught people how to beat the Fed, how to stop them in their tracks. And we saw Merrick Garland acting like he was bad, and we saw him stop. Then we saw the day after we did a video, the Attorney General here came out with the same stuff that was in the video. You could go check it and put it in a letter and told him, you ain't coming here. So
the feds have no jurisdiction over anything.
I know what people think
I
is
agree with that.
I know what people think is reality, but I live in real life where we're winning. And I'll give you some examples. You could go to any legislature in America, anyone, and ask them, when people were crying about COVID, how many businesses did they save? Then you could go to this man right here who's not elected and ask people who know him for testimony of how many businesses we opened in the private that the government dropped off of and said, we ain't messing with you no more after we moved them into the private. Right. There's 114 or 15 of them right now. Even in a foreign nation, on tribal land, we opened them. They said, you better shut down or we're going to get you. We opened the lady up in tribal land. We have fought in real life things that people thought you couldn't beat. They're like, oh, if Governor Ducey tells us we got to shut down, we just got to shut down and lose everything. I'm like, bullcrap, Article 2, Section 8. Argue with it, Ducey. Anybody. Josh brought it to the legislative people and like, hey, Dave and I have been discussing this. Is this in the law? And they're like, wow, you found a loophole. No, we found that y'all are using loopholes. Yeah.
We found the law.
Y'all are using loopholes. And if you look today, the same attorneys that are working here helping the Board of Supervisors, right? Let's think about this. They're like, oh, we declined to give it to you as the Board of Supervisors. The legislature don't have power. So we see Dominion saying, oh, you don't have power to force us to give something. We're not public officers. Funny they use that word. Because all of the lockdowns, all of the mandates were for persons, personnel of government. They made the people believe it applied to them. And then we showed everybody, no, people are in the private realm. We are not in democracies. They trick us into believing you're in a democracy. They keep saying it, right? Democracy doesn't mean what we think it means. Democracy literally means the people are ruled by people we elect. Like a king. Hey, we want you to be our king. Right? We're not in freaking England, but we think that we're in a democracy because people keep saying it. And we don't realize what does republic mean? It's very simple. Republic doesn't mean that we vote for a ruler. It doesn't mean that we do get to elect our servants.
Hey, is Michelle
right?
Ugenti-Rita listening to this right now?
Watch this. This is gonna be deep.
doubt it.
Yeah.
What does republic mean? Republic means thing or matter, public or publica, public thing, right? The things that are public is what we gave government control over. People are in the private. Private associations are in the private. So if we gave the government control over public things only, those things are the things they have jurisdiction over.
And you can see this in ARS 26317, even their own statute says this.
It'll blow your mind if you read that.
Well, we talk about here consent of the governed. And I said, I didn't consent for you to do this.
No,
that doesn't
I
mean
didn't
what you
either.
think it
That's
means
not us.
either.
The consent
of the governed
is
is not us. They're the ones who are governed because they swear the oath.
Right. We consent.
No.
No?
Let me help you
All
see
right,
this.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This
So
is one of always gets
Article
confusing.
2, Section
Okay.
2.
Yeah.
It lets you know that the people have all political power and governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. So the individuals of the state, the people, are the ones who have all the rights, right? Your only duty and paramount duty is to protect our rights and freedoms. We never granted those to you. We never said you could control our freedom. Who allows you to control them? Anyone who decides to work in government guarantees that you can do what you want to do to them based on the statute. Now, people say, no, David, statute applies to everybody. I'll say, okay, did you go close the court at 5 o'clock yesterday? That's in statute, right? Did you close the library at 6 or 7, whatever time it closes? Did you shut down the park? Why? Oh, that don't apply to me. Oh, wait, so statute don't apply to you at times now. I thought it applied to everybody.
Right.
ARS 26317. It lets you know this is the ending of the emergency section of the Constitution. Of the statute. ARS 26-317 starts off by letting you know that any person, right? I'll ask this: are you a person?
Yes, absolutely.
We were
Right?
persons.
No, you're not. Does that sound crazy?
It does sound crazy.
Let's open up. Let's look at this.
It
Let's
literally-
read it out. Let's read it out loud.
There's a difference
Uh-oh, we
in
could be destroyed by the end of the night.
Hey, let's read it
No,
out
I
loud.
love this.
This
I
is
love
going to
this.
blow your mind because there's a lot of people who say they know their rights.
This is what saved my business, but this is what was used to save about 114 businesses
around the country in the most democratic, nutty states.
New Jersey, California, New Mexico.
We even went after the DAs who opened
Oregon.
their mouth. I tell people, I said, look, if the DA opens his mouth, we'll go after him too. And they were like, oh, we just happen to not want to get you anymore. And, we're going to just leave this alone. We didn't even know we didn't have jurisdiction. We were talking to the state and the county and trying to figure out who had jurisdiction. Why the heck you in court if you don't know who has jurisdiction?
Right.
If you're running people through a case and you have no jurisdiction, that is treason against your oath. So make up your mind who you're supposed to have this in front of, because if you don't know, you're in trouble, right? So look at this. So let's read from the beginning. Anybody who agrees that they're a person, let me know, because if you are a person, this would apply to everybody, right?
Right.
Okay.
Any person who
Any
violates
person. So if anybody violates this should apply to you, right? Now, unless you're some sovereign citizen that they like to say, or something crazy, or some special class, it should apply to you because it said any person, if that's what person means, right? So what does it say?
All right. Any person who violates any provision of this chapter, or who knowingly fails or refuses to obey any lawful
order. Doesn't that sound like the military?
Yeah.
Oh, follow a lawful order, right?
Or regulation issued as provided in this chapter shall be guilty of a class 1 misdemeanor.
Okay, let's stop. Now, so
That's that's where they stop it normally.
that apply
They
to
don't want
everybody,
you to
right?
read the rest.
As a matter of fact, we've seen where the police in one of the towns here put that half and didn't show the rest, and were giving people tickets for it. Now,
certain gyms in the area you guys are very aware of, I'm sure, that were getting hammered,
destroyed.
were shown that part of the statute.
That's what they ticket you with. Now, the next part is, now we got to figure out if person means any man or woman, who is this not applicable to?
Yeah, you would think person, it
Means
applies to everybody.
Read it. Watch what happens.
This provision does not apply
Whoa.
to the refusal.
Does not apply. Right? Have you ever heard somebody say that law don't apply to me? They call them crazy, right?
Yeah.
You must be crazy if you
You
think some of the
sovereign
law
citizen,
don't apply
that
to you,
doesn't
you
apply to
sovereign
you?
citizen. Well, why are you writing statutes saying it don't apply to some people? Keep reading. Watch this.
All right, this provision does not apply to the refusal of any private
Whoa.
organization
If you're a private organization, it don't apply to you?
or member
Thereof. Holy moly.
to participate in a
Whoa,
local
you get to participate in an emergency? You get a choice?
in a local
Are they
emergency.
forcing people right now? They're kicking people out of work over an emergency that you can decide if you want to be part of this?
or a state of emergency
Oh, so if
as
there's a state of
defined by
emergency,
this chapter.
we can say, Ducey, I'm a member of an association.
And
Keep
I
rocks.
basically said, Governor Ducey, respectfully, I choose not to participate in your ridiculous, unconstitutional emergency order, and my gym is going to remain open.
guess how many
and we're
police
not
came?
going to wear masks, and my people are going to come in 24/7. We're going to play loud music, and I'm going to tag you every day on Instagram and tell you about it.
And he did it. And then we did it in other states. And nobody's in
Because
jail.
when you try to destroy somebody, when you try to destroy someone that's built something for 10 years, and people have had businesses even longer than that,
Right.
and this little tyrant sits up there and tries to shut you down and steal everything from you that you've ever worked for, And when I found this out, man, I had my buddy Tommy Trilovis in New Jersey. When he found out about this, he literally about broke down crying. Because
Literally.
he was shut down for 4 months. Both
He
gyms.
was
Losing
on
everything.
Fox News. I
No,
believe.
that's Ian, but Ian was
Ian
too.
was-
We turned him into the
Yeah.
private too. The judge wouldn't arrest him no more.
You know, Ian went back in and kicked the doors in, right? Remember that? He went on Instagram.
He went in the private.
Well, he did that because he was in a private. Why didn't they arrest him?
He told them, I'm going at this time on, was it Tucker at the same time, kicking the door in after y'all told me to stay out, after he moved into the private. And they're like, we just gonna let that go. He did it on TV. So here's the question. Right there, it just showed you that people in the private and private members are not bound by emergency orders.
So it also says, he said, well, this business is essential, and this is
This one is
non-essential.
not.
And I would always think, who has the right to tell me that my business is not essential?
Well, there's a trick. You want me to tell it to you? I'm
Yes.
gonna tell you a bar attorney trick. So let me ask you this: are you a person?
I'm not a person.
Yeah, because see, if you're a
You're one
person,
of the
that would
people.
apply to you.
Yeah.
As one of the people in the private, it does not apply.
So would you say you are a private citizen?
No, I'm one of the people. So if you look in Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, it says the people have all political power. That means we're higher than the government. If you look in New Jersey, it tells you that the people are inherently free and independent.
All right, Ron, write this one down. What's the ARS on that?
No. It's Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 2.
Article 2, Section 2.
Yeah.
It says the
Pull
people.
it up. Pull it up.
All
You can look at
political
it.
power, all
Here,
political
I'll open it
power
for
is
you.
inherent in the
And the
people.
people and the governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed and are established to protect and maintain individual rights.
Now tell me a little bit about your background. How did you learn all of these things?
So I fought CPS, and I realized I was a businessman making tons of money, doing well in church, teaching people how to be successful in their life, doing live videos every day. Then I met Arizona CPS. When I met Arizona CPS, I started doing research, and I found out they lied on people on purpose.
Now tell everybody what CPS is.
I'm sorry, DCS, Department of Child Safety.
Okay, Department
Yes.
of Child Safety.
Or Child Protective Services in other states.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a run in with them, and I literally seen where they saw clearly that there were lies. They hid 4 stories out of 5. There was 5 different stories. They hid 4 so they could take my little guys. And I told them, I said, listen, you can take my little guys if you want to. I guarantee you I will destroy your whole system, every bit of it. I'll find out everything you've done wrong. I'll find all your stuff and I'll expose it. And I did. I did expose it to everybody, and they're falling across the country. I'll give you an example. In Arizona, they don't use a warrant to take people's kids. They use what's called a pickup order. If you look at it, Arizona DCS is a federal program, and they work together with a federal, they work with a federal for profit. It's private. So what happens is the original law creating CPS says in the 1935 Social Security Act 11016D that nothing in this act shall be construed as authorizing any agent, federal agent, officer, or representative to take charge of any child over the objection of either parent or person standing in loco parentis to such child. What that means is, if a federal agent says, "Give me your kid," you can't, and one of the parents says,
You say no, you're not taking them.
then they're kidnapping if they take them. Well, people will say, well, David, that doesn't make any sense because DCS is a state agency. Go to ARS 8-453 and you look at A, scroll down to 15. A will say the director shall. 15 will say act as a federal agent for the furthering the purposes of this, any of these programs. So the DCS head is a federal agent taking kids for profit. They make $1 billion a year profit in Arizona. 1,000 kids a month. Very few of the parents get arrested until they start telling.
Think about it. If you're taking, and I always say this, if you're taking a kid, or more than one, from two parents, right, from the parents or whoever's there, and it's something so heinous that you're taking your kids from them, wouldn't they be prosecuted criminally? Wouldn't they be arrested?
Sure.
Right? Well, they never are.
You're not
Well, I should say
prosecuted here
never.
until you tell.
Most of the time, they're not.
If you start telling what they're doing, then they try to. They just prosecuted a woman. They were trying to give her 24 years in prison for saying she tried to kill her kid. The issue was that she was in the hospital getting an opinion on what was going on with her son. They sent her home once. She went to Children's Hospital, who has a contract with CPS that they get paid $800 and something for every kid they take, plus I think up to $5,000, and then they can make money on any surgeries they do. And Ducey sits on the board called TGen that actually does experiments
You
on
guys
kids.
know about TGen, right?
So you think about it, it's a big conflict of interest. So there's a
So
private
what are the
program.
experiments? Did you say?
They will
Teach it?
do
Tell us.
surgeries on kids, make money for the surgeries, and then
What types of surgeries?
It's like new types of procedures or whatever, because they give DCS custody over the kid unlawfully because the kids are in a private family.
You mean experimental surgeries?
All types of things. So there's parents who had their kids
Against the
taken.
parents' will. You know, the
They
parents are
kick them
saying,
out.
I want to get a different opinion. They'll leave, and they will literally go take the kids, saying that they're saving the children
Awarded
because
the
they want to get a
states,
different
right.
opinion.
Yeah, but the law says you can't take kids into custody. Something has to happen, like, let's say if a parent shoots somebody or rapes somebody, he's going to prison, right? After he does that, there's going to be a trial in an actual court of record, right? A court of record is actually a legitimate criminal court.
Due process.
So what happens is that court can say, hey, there's nobody to take care of the kid anymore. Let's take him into the state. What they're doing now is they're using administrative hearings, which is the same thing they use in COVID programs. They'll say, here's an administrative citation. What the freak is an administrative citation? It's not a court. They're tricking you because it's a COVID program where they make money off of shutting people down. I can show you an Arizona statute where they do it. It's ARS 26-312, where it says that the governor or any political subdivision can take money from any person in subject to terms over any emergency. So if there's an emergency, let's say George Soros could come in and say, look, I'll let you have $1 billion if you make everybody wear masks and shut them down. So now the legislature is working for persons under their terms because the attorneys taught them to make statute that gives them a conflict of interest. So they get to have all these administrative cases right now. Sal DeCiccio came out and said, look, they gave 291 or 294 million for COVID. All that money disappeared. They used 1 million for COVID, then he said all this money disappeared into private trust and all that. Do you realize what they're doing? They're taking money from people's Social Security for COVID, and every person they say is sick, every person they say is diagnosed, they get paid for it.
Every positive case, and the tests that they used were 90% false positives. They were set like that on purpose. The PCR was so high that it gave you a positive outcome or a positive test, and you get paid for it.
Well, the emergency authorization that used that PCR test that was never made for COVID-19.
Well, that's true too.
They've just removed that emergency authorization.
A year and a half later.
Yeah, saying this
After
really
they made
doesn't.
money.
Yeah, this really doesn't work the way that we thought it did. But they also increased the cycles too. They went from like 25 to 30
Up to
something.
40 sometimes.
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I got a call
you're right.
very early on yesterday from Dr. Salvino. Many of you know Dr. Salvino out there. He ran for Congress long before you were thinking about Congress, and he lost. And he called me and he says, Ron, we've got to do something here. He says, the monies that are going out there are going into big corporate pockets and big billionaires and making billionaires.
In favors.
And he says, for instance, we got a hospital that's done $50 million plus COVID revenues, but they only got $800,000 in the hospital. He says the reason you're not getting nursing, the nurses in many cases are getting a raise of 10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And all of the money's going into big pockets of big donors to political parties.
Well,
This
that's where that
is
money's
what's
going.
happening in every state. So the people have not realized yet that they're stealing the kids for profit. They're doing child support enforcement. If you get a $3,000 child support order, they also go into everybody else's Social Security, take out $3,000 more for federal funds participation matching. They take part of that money, split it up between the judges and attorneys working on the case, and then donate the rest to the general fund. And then money starts disappearing, going to special programs. So we have an issue in America where the number one association in the entire nation is called the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. I believe that we're in this issue right now over the election because Trump made an executive order in the middle of COVID. Now, guess what that order was for? Think it was for COVID? No, it was for CPS. Trump made an order strengthening CPS saying that we need attorneys that are high level to block CPS attorneys pre-petition because they're unnecessarily taking kids. When Trump did that, he made a war with the biggest group of judges and attorney in the whole nation, the National Council of Juvenile Family Court Judges, 30,000 members. Some of the same judges that Trump would have cases in front of over the election stuff were CPS judges and attorneys that make side money off of that whole program. Now, people say, oh, you don't make side money. Title 42, 674 payment to states. You can go read and see the judges. They call it neglect and abuse courts. That don't exist in American republics. They made up something called neglect and abuse courts that also make money with all the attorneys for the parents, attorneys for the CPS side, the CPS workers, the guardian ad litems, and the CASA members. They're all paid money from the federal secretary and the executive branch.
And these judges that are in these courts aren't judges.
They're not judges.
They look
faking.
like judges.
They're administrative hearing officers wearing black robes,
I call
acting
them-
like you're in court.
Yeah, I call them referees.
And it's really, so all of their judgments, they've been taking people's kids by the thousands. There's been no judicial judgment, and the parents don't know, so they just give up their kids.
No due process. They're literally taking your kids in no due process at all.
So they're using that person thing again. They'll say any person who the state wants to take their kids can send CPS and they take them. Well, define person. Go to ARS 1-215. They'll tell you who person is. Person is any individual, meaning like company, partnership, association, corporate entity like corporation, LLC, whatever, or the United States government, the state, or a political subdivision. It does not mean people, right? Then they'll say at the end, natural person. Natural person doesn't mean what you think it means either. Natural person is what's called an ens legas. It's a legal entity, and it's with corporations and all these other legal entities. It's a legal entity that they use as what's called a transmitting utility. So when the government wants to take your stuff, they'll create like two things. Well, you create one thing, they'll create another thing. I'll give an example. The government is over commerce, right? We gave them power in Article 1, Section 8 to deal with commerce. So what they do is they say, oh, any person that leaves District of Columbia is automatically in commerce. So they'll create a birth certificate that says, this child is the person, whatever. And then they use the birth certificate and your social security card to discharge debt. So anytime you go get some credit, you use that. So those documents are actual persons. So then when they give out a loan, they give a loan to that person and you use it as one of the people. So and I was going to show you guys in Article 2, Section 3 of the Arizona Constitution, where it differentiates between the two things, a person and one of the people. Because people think that every one of the people is a person, and that's not the truth. The people, you have to protect their freedoms, and you can never go against their rights or liberties. Persons, you can restrict because they are property or offices of the government, and you swore an oath. So what they do is they'll say, look, there's going to be a lockdown. No person shall be outside after this time. And that person means the government worker because they can be restricted. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to let you read it so you can see it because I don't like to say stuff that you can't prove.
Well, you know what I want to know, because, for everybody listening out there, you're throwing out a lot of things as a very knowledgeable person. Now, are you an attorney?
No, heck no.
Okay.
Then I wouldn't throw it out.
Yes. Yeah, so
I will hide it.
He'd keep
'cause I
it so
make
he
a
could
lot
make
of
money
so
out of it.
He get Giuliani.
this is very personal to you because you had the government come against you and you said, you know what, this isn't right.
Well, not the government.
Yeah, they're private. They're not even government. The CPS is not government. Just like today, if you look at
But they portray that they are. A lot
the
of times.
CDC, the CDC is coming out now and they're finding out, oh shucks, they're not government. If you read in that letter,
I thought by the way, I want to interrupt.
You thought
I
CDC
did
was government?
think the CDC was a government
No.
agency.
CDC is
it
a
is
private
not.
entity.
It's a private industry.
look at the words in that Dominion letter today. They let it see. The attorneys are so stupid that when they're trying to get out of trouble, they'll give the secrets if people are paying attention. So they said about Dominion, you said you wanted to do a public records request. Dominion is not public because public means government workers. Really. But when you talk about us, you call us the public.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then when you do public welfare, you don't tell us that we're in the private. The government is over public health, public welfare, public law. They're not over the private. So when you say a man has his house as his castle, it's because it's in the private. But they will never tell you because the attorneys make too much money off of taking everybody to court who's minding their own business.
Right.
So if you look at Article 2, Section 3, this is going to, you got to read it for everybody because it's going to help them see.
Okay, we got to
crap.
make this fairly quick because we're running out of time.
I'll do the best I can.
Okay, thank you, Randy.
Supreme law of the land.
Wait, let me ask you this before you go. Who in here is bound by the United States Constitution?
Everyone.
Okay, no, that's wrong. Read, watch.
The supreme law of the land, authority to exercise sovereign authority against federal action, use of government personnel, and financial resources.
Okay, let's read. Watch this. Start off in A.
The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land to which all government, state, and federal
all people?
Not people.
Didn't say people?
is subject.
Wait, did it say all people are subject?
No,
It said what?
it said government,
All
state,
government, state,
state
and federal?
federal
Oh,
is
shucks.
subject.
So the government officers swore to be bound by the United States Constitution, and that's why they got to follow every single bit. It didn't say the people.
Right.
All right, keep going. It's going to get deeper.
To protect the people's freedom
Oh,
and
shucks. You got to protect the people's freedom.
Right.
Right? That's the goal
Yeah.
of this section. So it's saying our duty is to protect the people's freedom, which matches the one that says you got to protect people's individual rights.
right.
Now, if you have to protect the people's freedom, can you restrict it?
No.
No. Okay, so that would be like totally the opposite to
So
say I'm
they
gonna
can't
protect
write
you by restricting-
statute to take our freedoms away or our rights away.
Impossible.
So Miranda versus Arizona is
Miranda
true.
versus
Oh, okay.
Arizona, where rights secured in the Constitution are involved, there should be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. They don't even have the power to write something that says you got to wear a mask. They don't. They're just tricking us. And as soon as we know, they're like, oh shucks. But let's keep reading. This is good.
They might say more something than shucks, though,
Yeah.
when they find this out.
To protect the people's freedom and to preserve the checks and balances of the United States Constitution, the state may exercise its sovereign authority.
Whoa. Those are some big words. Sovereign authority. Now, they're always throwing out this sovereign authority like they could tell everybody what to do. Right? I've heard a couple of them say, oh, we have sovereign authority to do this. I'm like, explain what that means. Because if you ever open your mouth in front of everybody and say what it means, I bet you stop saying it. Right? So what's the sovereign authority they have? They could tell us what to do? Keep reading. It's going to tell you who they have authority over.
Exercises sovereign authority to restrict the actions of its
Oh,
personnel.
whoa, that just shrank a lot of power.
Personnel.
Of its what?
Of its personnel.
That sounds like the persons of government. How you call them
Right.
personnel? So they can restrict the persons of government, but they have to protect the people's freedom. So what the heck are they doing writing all these things saying the governor can make you shut down? Really?
And they try to tell you that we're the same thing, but it's clearly showing you a distinction.
You got
in
to
the
protect the
terms.
people's freedom.
Right.
You can restrict the personnel of government. You can't restrict us. Where did you get that foolishness from?
So where does that lie? If you are a person and you worked for the federal government, can you establish well, at work they could make you do something?
Oh, Mike, I
Right?
love this guy. Okay, watch this. I'm going to show you how simple this is. Go to slide down to Article 2, Section 8. It's very short. Watch this. If a person is in work as a government official, what happens when it comes to a thing that's not public anymore? Article 2, Section 8.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Article 2, Section 8.
Yep, just scroll.
I'm in Section 3.
Let me see.
You're going to love this. Article 2,
Okay,
Section 8.
while we're waiting for that, you're watching Hub Radio Phoenix, and we're going to run over a couple of minutes here while we're looking for Article 2, Section 8. But we'd like to thank you for watching, and we've got
Here you go.
David
you go.
Jose.
No person shall
No
be.
person.
No person.
So a person deals with who? Person is the mask that somebody wears in their position. In the Bible, you'll see where it says to be a righteous judge and to judge the small, right? So don't be a respecter of persons. Judge the small the same way you'll judge the great. That's your political position.
Sounds like the Magna Carta.
Yes, one man might be the garbage man and one man might be the president. That's two positions, judging the same. So watch this. No person
Shall be disturbed in his private affairs or his home invaded without authority of law.
once you're in your private affairs,
So once you
I'm
leave, you go
untouchable.
home, you're in the private. You're one of the people.
Game over. You can.
You're right.
You can hold me by oath on the clock. When I get off, stop.
Right.
Okay, and speaking of the clock, we're just about done. Mr. Neil.
Will you come back?
Hey, I told
If-
you
if
guys
God
we're going
lets-
to drop bombs.
If God
tonight.
lets me
This-
live,
and
I
you
am
have.
your humble servant.
Well, I've got some ideas. I want you to stick around here for a couple minutes after the show. You've been watching Hub Radio, Backstreet Gossip. We're going to be on.
How can we end right now? How can
I know. That's
We have at least another 3 hours to go.
This is a tease. These guys are going to come back. We're going to have to slow this down because it's a little mind-boggling. That's not the way I learn
for
things.
some people, but you know,
Once you see it in plain English, you can't
you're just
deny
a
the
private
obvious
guy.
truth. Yeah, once you see it in plain language, third grader language, it's game over.
Okay, you got to let me close up. So we're going to see you Wednesday night, and it's going to be another Barn Burner show. And so don't go away. Thanks for joining us on Hub Radio. We'll see you Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m.
And thank you, David Jose. Thank you, Josh Barnett.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you here.
Wow, I'm just like.
That kind of blew my mind.
Every time.